Okay, what's up, everybody? This is Justin Wallington. See my previous video to see the beginning of this, and I'm basically going to make this. Let's see, one, two, three, three parts, I guess. So this is the second part. Um, so when you're drawing using these pencils that I showed earlier in the other video, um, next when you want to shade. And remember, it's just like a tattoo. Like a lot of people think the outline is definitely important, but it doesn't come to life until you start shading. And shading is definitely as important as the outline. So these tools right here are my shading tools. Um, you might wonder why there are paintbrushes here, and that's quite simple. Paintbrushes actually blend the graphite on very smoothly. You see, I have these shading stumps here too. These actually blend and create sort of a deep impression, so to speak, into the paper. So it's not always a good thing to use these shading stumps. You actually have to be pretty skilled, I would say. You could play around with it, but sometimes you might shade too dark and it just smudges instead of like brushes on. So, but these are good to get into the cracks and the corners and the crevices. That's why they look like little pencils. You can kind of go in and shade little things like that. But these have been used a lot, so I don't even really even have to have any pencil in the area for me to shade now because it's already stuff built into this. But um, paintbrush is great for doing shading hair and facial features and things like that. Just pretend like it's like a woman putting on like blush or something. It kind of like smooths it on pretty good. Um, so a paintbrush, excuse me, a paintbrush coupled with something called pan pastels is basically like a powdered pastel. I'm not going to open it, but um, you get some on your brush. Say it's a dark area you want to shade. You dip it in here. You brush it all over. You start to, and it goes on smooth. It doesn't. It basically you can play with it and almost like painting and cover a nice area. So pan pastels, these are pretty dark. This black it goes on pretty dark. So if you have like a really dark area, it's good to use pan pastel. It's like a alternative for charcoal, so to speak. And then we also have graphite powder, which is basically the same as kind of like pan pastel, but just imagine if I just crumbled up all those pencils and turned it into powder. That's what this is. Um, I'm not sure exactly the softness of it, but it's pretty dark. So again, if you want to cover large areas of the same color and make it really dark, you can either use pan pastel or graphite powder and use a bigger brush and brush it all over. Make sure you just don't flail it like I'm doing right here, but you can use circular technique or brush it in. But that's for another video to show you techniques and things like that. But these things right here are the shading tools, and trust me, these stumps are great. They're called shading stumps. They're great, but start to practice using shading techniques with a paintbrush. Exactly, a paintbrush. I'll drop that. Sorry about that. I'll get it later. But start getting used to doing videos with doing drawings with a paintbrush and shading with a paintbrush because it will definitely make your photo look a lot softer and smoother and more even all around. So that's another thing for you to check out, and I will be back for part 3 to finish everything up. So hopefully that was helpful for you too. Oh, by the way, the paintbrushes, you got to worry about the thickness. Certain ones are softer, certain ones are thicker. So just keep in mind which kind of paintbrushes you buy. The stiffer it is, the more dug in the shading will be. Hopefully that makes sense. The softer, the more you can play around with it. So you're just gonna have to play with it and see what feels comfortable to you. So I'll be back for part 3. Thank you.